Hello, everyone, and good afternoon. Happy Wednesday. We are approaching the end of January 2026. I can't believe we're almost through an entire month. So much has happened. My name is Heather A. Kolar, and I am the founder and managing partner of the Heather A. Kolar Agency, effectively known as HACA. And I am joined today, or I am joining today, the one and only Carm Chikalis, who is the founder of CyberChick. He is a multi-decade veteran, Army veteran, retired as an esteemed colonel. And he was the first person to put together a cyber strategy for the US Army. So Carm is with us here today because he's all about bringing big cyber strategy to small and medium-sized businesses. Good afternoon, Carm. How are you?
Hi, Heather. Thanks for having me. And I got to say, boom, haka, laka, laka, boom, haka, laka, laka.
Oh, you're so funny. This is so exciting. So we are here today because the cyber world, quite frankly, is a bit crazy. It's super crazy. My mom got hacked last week. Thankfully, she was protected, but it happens all day, every day. And we're here to talk about how smart companies actually approach cybersecurity in 2026. So, Carm, kick us off, help us understand what we should be doing, what's actually changing in the cyber threat landscape today.
Well, first of all, I'm sorry to hear that your mom was hacked. But the great news is that you said is she was able to minimize it. And because she was prepared, she was able to limit the damage. And really,
Yes.
first of all, you got to look at this. It's not a matter whether it's personal or business. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And am I prepared? And am I minimizing the damage and any of the reputation and anything that happens after that? But when you talk about what's changed in 2025, and you're going to see more of in 2026, thanks to artificial intelligence, the bad guys that already have a $10 trillion business, which in the third largest economy, are bigger, stronger, faster because of AI. So you have to be smarter and better prepared to stop that. And a lot that gets into having your people, processes, and technologies lined up to deal with the threat. Your people are still your biggest threat, or biggest vulnerability. Sorry, biggest part of your attack surface.
Yeah, people are our biggest asset, but when it comes to cybersecurity and protecting your reputation, protecting your assets, protecting your clients' assets, quite frankly, a lot of the error happens because we're human, right? And
Yep, and
people
we are.
are. There's just no getting around it.
Yep.
It's nearly impossible to be perfect. No one's perfect. And so why don't you tell us in your experience, in your decades of experiences, how do people err? Like, what are some of the biggest mistakes? Just give us a story of one situation that was really, really bad that might resonate with all of our guests that we have.
Yeah. So again, whether you're personal or business, saw this at the business level. The business owner was using a strong password. However, she was reusing that password across multiple platforms.
Hmm.
And actually, what happened, and this is really a terrible thing, her mobile subscriber was breached,
Oh,
and they
wow.
got the credentials there. And so again, thanks to AI, they just go out there and rapidly slam every site out there with the same login credentials. But of course, her login credentials were her email, plus that password, which she reused on her business email. So they
Mm.
were able to get into the business email. And from there, they were able to keep moving because, again, thanks to AI, they suck in all that data of what your emails say and where you're going. And then they go to those sites, and what do? They hit reset password. And so then they're able to move her along. And the next thing you know, she gets her bank breached, and they're able to change the destination on where her payments go. And in 1 month, she lost $350,000 in payments just from that subtle change of changing the wiring instructions
The wiring structure.
of
So it all
where it was
ended up,
going.
yeah, they were able to hack into the system, get the wiring information, which even at our best, we err, right? So they were able to take $350,000 from one transaction.
You have
That's
to think about it
incredible.
like this, Heather. When you get the notification, say, hey, here's your periodic transaction that you expected to happen. You
Right.
know it's happening. You don't look necessarily where it's going. You say, oh, there it is.
If it's
And
routine. And they
I don't
do,
know the bank
yeah, they
account
do
number
such
of
a
everybody that I sent to off the top of my head. So it just, if it looks normal, it just
right.
happens.
And they're so smart. Again, they're smart anyway, but then now they're using AI so they can really mimic, like you said, what our normal transactions look like. All right, so I'm sure we all have experienced some form of a cyber threat, if not have fallen victim to cybersecurity. And when we talk about it being a $10 trillion industry, Carm, you've told me that you've come across situations where these cyber criminals are acting and operating like full-blown organizations, right? They get up, they go to work, they have shifts. So the
Yep.
threats are really real, they're organized, and they're very powerful. And so we want to talk about how smart companies actually approach cybersecurity in 2026 and give people clarity on what we should be doing. One of the things you always talk about, which I just find to be so profound, and you kind of hinted at it at the example you just gave, is that cybersecurity is not an IT risk; it's a business risk. So tell us from the onset what companies shouldn't do. Let's start with a couple of ideas about how you shouldn't approach cybersecurity in 2026 so then we can help you understand what you actually should be doing.
Yes. Stop lowballing the situation or lowballing the threat. Stop underestimating the threat.
Okay.
And what we have a tendency to do, like you said, is say, well, cyber risk is an IT risk. And, just as I talked about, it's not IT's responsibility to make sure that your payment went to the right destination. So if you have an employee who comes in and asks that their paycheck be sent to a new bank, that's HR has to do that. That's not IT's fault. When you get an invoice and comes in and, invoicing has to pay the new bill, again, it's their job to make sure that that's a requirement, not necessarily IT's job. IT's job is to make sure that your technology supports your business processes and gets you availability to your data. But cybersecurity also looks at the confidentiality and integrity of the data, and it looks at people, processes, and technology across the breadth of the organization. So while there is a lot of overlap, and having a great IT partner is an important start. I say that all the time. That's not the be all end all. And I think some of the other things to look at are we say, oh, well, I have cyber insurance. I don't need
Mhm.
cyber expertise. And well, in cyber insurance, just having that doesn't reduce the likelihood of the event happening. What a
Right.
lot of business owners don't know when they get into the underwriting documents of there, do I have all of the processes in place? Have I checked all those blocks and made sure that those work? And then also, do I have the right coverage? When you check those blocks, you reduce the likelihood of something happening, and you should also get yourself a better premium. But you have to know what you're looking for. And I think
Right.
the last part, the thing that don't do is don't think that's not going to happen to you,
Oof.
because I can almost guarantee you it's going to happen to everybody at some point, personal or business. Again, are you prepared to limit that damage?
Hmm. I think that's a great segue into what we want to talk about because you covered quite a few things, right? One of the biggest misnomers is that I have cybersecurity and cybersecurity insurance, excuse me. And there are so many things that must be done to keep your cyber insurance policy payable. The worst thing to see is a company owner that purchased cybersecurity, has a few things in place for protection and compliance, but they missed out on some taking critical steps, which now they faced an incident, they faced a cyber crime, and for some reason that was probably preventable, either they're going to get a partial payout or no payout. And we know the cost of a cyber crime is more than what we actually face just on the immediate loss. So, you always like to say that, as the ticker says, smart companies don't start the year reacting to headlines, because there's countless headlines, right? There's countless headlines. Companies are losing millions of dollars. Some of the bigger, massive companies can withstand it. But the companies that you help, the attorneys, the independent wealth advisors, the CPAs, who are a huge target because they have so much client information. You always say a lot of the times the targets for lawyers, CPAs, and wealth advisors, they're not even the targets. They're trying to get to their clients' information, which is much more valuable, and can be reused so many times, right? A lot of the times we don't want to react to the headlines and get stuck in fear and just start buying services, right? They have to actually quietly answer the question. The real critical question is, do we understand our cyber risk? So, Carm, can you speak to that a little bit today, so companies, people on the call, business owners can understand what that actually means?
Yeah, if cyber crime is a $10 trillion business, cyber privacy is a $50 billion business. So, for example, if I go after a CPA who has access to so many individuals and businesses' information, it's more valuable to me as a criminal to get in there, get that information, and then to sell it more so on the dark web or for privacy exploitation. And I don't necessarily want you to know I'm there, because I just want to get all as much data as I can.
Right.
And, and then what's the ensuing fallout, though, if that's released? So look at what's happened to a couple of large companies lately. Allianz, in 2025, a very large life insurance company was breached. In August of 2024, Fidelity, one of the top three brokerage firms, had a privacy breach. 40,000 packets of personal accounts and information were lost. That information gets out on the dark web. Now, those companies are large enough to absorb that and the cost to that. But you have to ask yourself, the company and your company is, can I absorb such an impact? So there's the loss of risk to the immediate business. I can't continue to function. I can't serve my clients right now. There's the loss of future business for anybody or lead or prospect that you're developing, because you really can't follow on with them. And then you have the loss of future business also for anybody who's going to bail after that happens. And that's also because you have the reputational damage. So you have so many different forms of current,
Layers.
future business and reputation that you need to consider. That's all part of that risk equation.
So how do you come in and start with a new company? I know that you've created this wonderful tool called the iCat. What does your process really look like? What should our listeners be tuned into?
So an ideal situation, we go to a customer and we come in and we do a deep cyber risk assessment with the customer, identify their gaps and vulnerabilities, and develop a plan. But the reason we developed the iCat, or that interactive cyber assurance tool,
Uh-huh.
is to help the business owner visualize what the company looks like before we even do that deep assessment, so that they can appreciate all of the factors that go into establishing a robust cybersecurity program. Heather, I don't know if you have that cyber
Yeah, sure. I
domain.
can bring
If
that
you
up.
can just put that up.
Hmm.
A lot of people don't realize, again, they just think of cybersecurity as an extension of IT. Thanks. But there's that picture there on the NIST Cybersecurity Framework 2.0. You have the six domains: identify, protect, detect, respond, recover, and then governance that touches all of it. And I would tell you that most companies probably do the protect pretty well. They've done part of identify and part of recover. But a lot of companies don't have much for governance to bring it all together. And they're weak on detect and respond, because those tend to be the pricier uh, things to do. Just while I have it up, if you look to the right there, you can see, for example, what we did with this is we looked at some common controls And this is not perfect by any situation, and a different cybersecurity might come up with something different. But we came up with different controls, give them a point value, and just say here are different things to consider. That if you have done these, have I identified my critical data? Do I know where my data is located? Do I know what my critical processes are? Do I know what my threats are? A couple down, so on and so forth. If you know what those are, and then you can try to evaluate yourself across the domains. And again, this is a starting point just so you can assess and visualize what the program really entails. Because I think it's far deeper than any most business owners consider. And just one other note in there is just what we did. If you slide down just a little bit more on that, Heather, you'll see some of the items that are bolded. Those are typical cyber insurance underwriting questions. So thanks for sharing that. You can take that off. This kind of gave them a flavor. I don't want to
Yeah, that's
inundate them
that's
with it.
really important. And I know that right now you're offering this as a complimentary tool to people who can request it. And if you look on the screen, I believe it'll be on your left screen. There's a QR code, everyone. I highly recommend. There you go, Carm. Carm's a comedian, by the way. Um, you can scan that with your phone and take a complimentary ICAT. And you started to really go into some of the key areas that I know as a small business owner I'm not thinking about all the time. And I found it very interesting that the detect and the respond areas, which are to me kind of like the most powerful areas to be strong in, that's where a lot of companies aren't as strong in the detection and in the response. So it's, if you're not being proactive and you suffer a crime, which is very, very likely, it's probably going to cost you more to mitigate it and try to get back in good standing. Carm, what's your
Yeah,
position on that?
detect and respond are the two hardest domains to fulfill. However, there are mitigating strategies and other things that you can do, again, that reduce the likelihood of something happening so that you're better prepared. I'm not saying don't do them at all. I'm just saying that I'm just acknowledging the reality
Yeah.
is that larger companies can afford it. They get a security operations center to help them detect and
Right.
respond. If
Right.
you're a
Right. Right.
company
Of
of
course, it's
of 20, even
standard.
100 people, how many people, how
Right.
much resources do you have to dedicate on and to the best detection?
This ICAT is such a great starting place, and this is what we want our listeners, our viewers to understand. For a very limited time, Karma is offering this as a complimentary tool. You're going to get a score when you take it. It's going to give you insight as to what you're good at, and then you'll see how much you actually have to improve. And there's no right or wrong.
No,
This is just a starting space. We promise to help you get clear. Carm, I'd like to actually show it a little bit just with a sample kind of submission so people can know what they're going to get.
sure, please do.
Um, you can see where you stand. Yeah, and it's really easy and it's really brief. So I'll share this. So what you're going to do is you're going to put in your name, you'll put in your email, you'll put in a telephone number, and I'll go through this quickly. These are not my actual answers, but you'll see whatever you do, you'll see what your points are for this section and so forth. You'll see that the boxes will color in if that's how you like to receive your information. And you'll basically just fill in what you're actually doing. This will help you get clear on everything that you're not doing. And then you're going to hit submit assessment at the end, and it'll give you a pretty clear understanding, right? So I only have 225 out of 600, 38%. I need improvement. So this is what this tool will help you do. I know that Carm is also offering a conversation. Listen, I said it in the beginning. This man developed the first cyber strategy for the US Army. He knows what he's doing. He's very humble. He doesn't like to talk about it a lot, but having known him for a few years, this is really his super strength. This is where he shines. He works with all of the people who will actually do the implementation. So this is not an anti-services conversation. This is how do you package up what you really need based on where your company stands. He and his team also understand budget constraints, right? Very few of us, I won't say none of us, but very few of us have all the money in the world. But if you're a small to medium sized business, you have a lot of competing demands. And one thing that Carm is really great at is helping you look at cybersecurity and position you so that cybersecurity is actually a preventive business continuity and protection strategy versus just a cost center. The reason why you have to get clear right now is because if you are simply buying vendor services, trying to do the right thing for your company, but you haven't used a tool like the ICAT to really understand your total risk, you could be leaving yourself open to a lot of vulnerabilities, and you may have the opportunity to reposition some of your budget, some of your money to work better for you and protecting you better against these cyber criminals. What's that,
Yeah,
Carm? These cyber criminals that are
heard you
working
talking.
hard.
So this is my paddle from the Pentagon. And if you remember the movie Ben-Hur, what
Uh-huh.
it says on there is "Welcome to the Pentagon. Row well and live." That's your purpose. But the thing
Yeah.
about it is, to what Heather is saying is, I there are certain things I can't get out of my blood, and as an Army staff officer, my job is to collaborate with everybody else before I go see the boss, and that's what we stress with our consultants. We are
Yep.
not here to make anybody look dumb. We are here to be part of your team, work with the rest of your team, help the team answer these questions before we go bother the
Mhm.
boss, and come back to the business owner though with recommendations that everybody else has seen. We don't operate in a vacuum. We really don't like to do that at all. But it's really, we have to work with the IT team, but we have to work with the other sections of your
You have to
company
work
as
with
well.
human resources. You have to work with accounting. You have to work with whatever other departments you have and your executive leadership team, because the threats can come in from anywhere. And that's something you really emphasize. And I think that this tool, the ICAT, also emphasizes it. So, what else do you have for the people, Carm?
No, that's
Any
well,
other pressing information?
I feel like I've done a lot of talking. Do they have any questions?
Yeah. Any questions from people? Mike Ganzel asks, once you do the ICAT, what's next?
What's next is if you put your information, your contact information in there, we'll have a discussion with you. We'll talk about this and your concerns and develop a way ahead and how we can help your company. It's
Right,
and that the ICAT is complimentary, and the discussion afterwards is no cost either. It's all about sharing
right,
us sharing our knowledge with you and how we can help you.
right. Extremely important. Well, I think this has been an incredible conversation. I hope that it has really opened the eyes to people who are going to see this live and perhaps afterwards. Because, again, as the ticker says, artificial intelligence is rampant and it's making cyber criminals smarter, faster, and better. And so, this ICAT tool, Carm's knowledge, wisdom, and his ability to share from the very best, right? You can get Pentagon level cyber strategy. I would take advantage of that. I would take advantage of doing the ICAT, scanning it, doing the ICAT, and setting up a call with Carm, just to make sure you are setting up your 2026 as strong as you can to protect, again, not only your data, right? We touched on it a little bit. The biggest risk is not only what your immediate loss is, but it's also the levels of loss that you experience after the crime: restoration, reputation, loss of clients, your clients' data being stolen and used. It's just an avalanche. And so we encourage you to take the ICAT. We encourage you, if you really want to know how to protect your business, and have a call. Carm brings in partners, your partners, his partners. It's a very cohesive and comprehensive and collaborative process. I encourage you to reach out to Carm. Heather A. Kohler from the Heather A. Kohler Agency signing out. And Carm,
Don't
it's
forget,
always a pleasure to be
yeah,
with
don't
you.
forget, it's not just about your client and employee data, but just current, but also think about your past as well and how much data you're holding
Yeah,
on to. So anything that you've had and held on to and done, that's a vulnerability as well and something to consider. And I always enjoy working with you, Heather, and coming on here. It's always high
absolutely.
energy, but let's not forget, CyberChick is here to help you keep cybersecurity boring
Boring.
so you can focus
Why
on
don't
what
you
you do
share
best.
with people your obviously on LinkedIn, you can send Carm a message, a direct message on LinkedIn. Carm, why don't you give them your best contact information? How can they reach you outside of
Sure,
LinkedIn?
you can use my email, Carm, CARM, Charlie Alpha Romeo Mike at cybercic.com. Look down there. Anyway. And then also
I'll
my
put it up for folks.
office phone, 717-706-3832. That's 717-706-3832.
All right, good people. So there we have it. Thanks for everyone who joined in today. More questions are welcome. We really want you to have a healthy and productive 2026. We hope that you don't get hit at all. And we hope that you become proactive, right? And preventative, because Carm can help you preventatively on your own timeline, or he can be reactive with you on the cyber
Yeah,
criminals
so
timeline.
we help make your people smarter, your processes stronger, and your technology decisions more strategic. That's helping proactive leaders make informed risk-based decisions on their timeline. The alternative is that we help reactive leaders make crisis decisions on the adversary's timeline. You don't want to do that one. It's
You don't want to do it
too
if you can't.
expensive, too hard,
Yeah.
painful.
All right, everyone. Wonderful. Have a great day. Reach out to Carm, take the
See ya.
ICAT,
Thanks a bunch.
and stay warm. If you're in the
Thanks for,
Northeast, stay warm.
thanks for dropping in. Have a great